Did you know that the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen covered 23 million square kilometers? To put that staggering scale into perspective, it was bigger than the Roman Empire at its peak, larger than the entire United States, and then some, all one unbroken stretch of land from the Pacific shores deep into Europe. One man rose from total outcast to rule it all. His name was Genghis Khan, but he didn't start as a king with loyal armies or grand palaces at his command. He started as a boy left for dead on the harsh Mongolian steppe, facing starvation, betrayal, and a world that seemed determined to crush him before he ever had a chance. Today, scientists tell us 1 in every 200 people alive carries his DNA in their blood. That's roughly 1 out of every 200 men, women, and children on the planet right now. A living genetic echo that stretches across continents. How on earth did a single boy from nowhere build something this enormous? How did he turn absolute hardship into the greatest empire history has ever recorded? Let's travel back to the year 1162. Deep in the windswept grasslands of Mongolia, this is the true story of Genghis Khan, from outcast to universal ruler. A tale packed with heartbreaking betrayal, impossible survival against all odds, and one unstoppable wave of conquest that would reshape the entire known world forever. You'll witness how a boy with nothing rose to unite fractious tribes, rewrite the rules of warfare, and leave a legacy that still echoes today. In 1162, beside the gentle flowing waters of the Onon River, a boy named Temujin entered the world inside a simple felt yurt. His father Yasuge, a respected clan leader known for his strength and leadership, held the newborn proudly in his arms. His mother Holun gazed down with deep hope and quiet determination in her eyes. No one gathered around that humble fire could have guessed, not even in their wildest dreams, that this tiny child would one day shake the foundations of the world. Temujin grew up learning the hard-won ways of the steppe, riding fast ponies almost before he could walk, drawing a small bow with steady hands and unerring aim. Life felt good for the young family in those early years, filled with open skies, family bonds, and the simple rhythms of nomadic existence. The boy was learning every skill he would later need to survive and thrive, until one fateful feast changed everything forever and set his path on a far darker course. At a gathering meant to build peace with rival Tatars, Yasuge was poisoned. He collapsed in terrible agony right there at the feast and died soon afterward, leaving his family stunned and vulnerable. The family was instantly stripped of all status, their herds taken, their allies gone. They were abandoned on the open steppe with almost nothing, left completely alone in the wild. The real story of survival, grit, and raw determination was just beginning in the most unforgiving way possible. With no horses to ride, no strong allies to protect them, and almost no food to share, Holun and her children dug desperately for wild roots in the dry earth, caught fish with their bare hands in icy streams, and fought constant gnawing hunger every single day. The steppe showed no mercy. This boy would either break under the crushing pressure of poverty and despair, or become unbreakable, forged in the fires of hardship that would shape the future conqueror of nations. When Temujin was only 13 years old, a bitter argument over just a few small fish boiled over into something deadly. In a moment of cold, desperate determination, he drew his bow and shot his half-brother Begta. His mother watched in horror as the arrow flew. The act shocked the family and marked a turning point. At 13, he had already crossed a line that most men never would, showing the fierce will that would one day define an empire. Not long after that tragic day, a rival clan captured the teenager. They forced a heavy wooden yoke around his neck like a beast of burden and made him work like a slave from dawn until dusk. Yet even in those dark chains, something fierce and unquenchable burned deep in his eyes. His spirit was already free, quietly planning its next move, refusing to be broken no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. One moonlit night, Temujin seized his chance. He smashed the wooden yoke against a rock, slipped past the sleeping guards, and ran for his life across the silver-lit steppe. The wind whipped at his face as freedom rushed through his veins. Back among his scattered people, he found something precious: love. He married a strong, intelligent young woman named Borte, and slowly began gathering a small, loyal band of followers who believed in him. The couple built a modest life together amid the tents and horses. For the first time in many long, painful years, real hope returned to Temujin's life and lit a quiet fire in his heart. Then, one dark, terrifying night, the Merkit tribe launched a sudden raid on their camp. They kidnapped Borte and carried her away into the blackness. Temujin stood helpless in the chaos, burning with rage and crushing despair as the sound of hooves faded. He had nothing left except a few trusted allies and an unbreakable vow forming in his mind. So he reached out to his childhood blood brother Jamuka and the powerful warlord Khan. The three young warriors gathered around a flickering campfire under the vast starry sky, shook hands firmly, and swore a solemn oath of mutual support. They had no idea in that quiet moment that these three ambitious leaders were about to change the course of history and set the stage for the greatest empire the world would ever know. With their new alliance sealed around that flickering campfire, Temujin, Jamuka, and Khan wasted no time. They gathered their combined warriors and launched a daring night raid deep into Merkit territory. Under the cover of total darkness, their forces struck hard and fast, catching the enemy completely off guard. The surprise attack was a complete success. Borti was rescued and brought safely back to her husband's side. In that heartfelt reunion, Temujin pulled her close, tears of relief mixing with pure joy as they held each other for the first time in months. It was their very first real taste of victory together, a moment that filled the young leader with fresh hope and confidence. But even as they celebrated beneath the starry sky, new enemies were already watching from the shadows, waiting for any sign of weakness. Victory tasted sweet, but the bond between Temujin and his childhood blood brother Jamuka began to crack. What had once been a close friendship slowly turned into bitter rivalry as both men competed for the loyalty of the same warriors. Tensions finally boiled over into open conflict. On the vast open steppe, the two former allies faced each other in a massive battle, thousands of horsemen clashing under clouds of dust. Arrows filled the sky and swords rang out as the ground shook beneath galloping hooves. It was a painful turning point. Loyalty would be tested again and again in the years ahead, forcing Temujin to learn who he could truly trust. In the end, Temujin's side prevailed. Jamuka was defeated and forced to flee. Instead of punishing the captured warriors, Temujin did something revolutionary. He promoted men based on skill, courage, and loyalty rather than noble birth. No longer would only the sons of chiefs rise through the ranks. This new merit system sent shockwaves through the tribes. Warriors who proved themselves in battle were given command, creating fierce dedication and unity. It was a revolutionary idea that quickly built an army of legends, men who would follow their leader anywhere. By the year 1206, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. On a wide grassy plain, thousands of Mongol chieftains gathered for a great assembly called the Kurultai. They raised the white horsehair banner high and in one thunderous voice proclaimed Temujin their supreme leader. From that day forward, he would be known as Genghis Khan, universal ruler. The crowd erupted in cheers that echoed across the steppe. Every tribe was now united under one man. The fractured nomadic world had become a single unstoppable force. With his new title secure, Genghis Khan immediately reorganized his army into a brilliantly efficient system. He divided the warriors into decimal units, groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, each commanded by leaders chosen strictly on merit. Clear chains of command, strict discipline, and constant training turned the Mongols into the most disciplined army the world had ever seen. Signals with flags and whistles allowed thousands of horsemen to move as one. This decimal system gave them speed, flexibility, and overwhelming power no enemy could match. Now the conquest machine roared to life. Genghis Khan turned his eyes south toward the wealthy kingdom of Western Xia. His warriors surrounded fortress after fortress, using ladders, siege engines, and relentless arrow storms. One by one, the strongholds fell. The defenders had never faced an enemy this organized or this determined. With each victory, the Mongols gained new territory, new resources, and unstoppable momentum. The conquest machine was now truly flush with success. Genghis Khan launched his next bold campaign against the mighty Jin dynasty. His army crossed the vast, scorching Gobi Desert in an epic march that tested every man and horse to the limit. Then came the Great Wall itself, the impenetrable barrier meant to keep invaders out. But the Mongols found the weak points, scaled the heights, and poured through in wave after wave. The once proud Jin forces could barely slow them down. The door to northern China had been kicked wide open. They stood before the grand capital of Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing. After a long and brutal siege, the city gates finally gave way. Flames rose high into the sky as the proud capital burned. The Jin emperor fled in panic. Abandoning his throne, China itself was now paying tribute to the Mongol conqueror. Word of the fall spread fear across the continent. No kingdom seemed safe anymore. Far to the west, another powerful empire made a terrible mistake. The ruler of the Khwarezmian Empire ordered the execution of peaceful Mongol traders and then humiliated Genghis Khan's envoys by shaving their beards and sending them home in disgrace. Inside his war tent, Genghis slammed his fist on the table, his piercing eyes blazing with fury. This insult could not go unanswered. A mistake that would cost millions of lives had just been made. Genghis Khan unleashed his full might on the Khwarezmian Empire. In a lightning-fast campaign, his armies swept across the land like a storm. The great cities of Bukhara and Samarkand were sacked one after another. Walls were breached, gates shattered, and the once mighty empire crumbled in months. From the Pacific shores all the way to the Caspian Sea, nothing could stand against the Mongol horde. At its peak, the Mongol Empire stretched across a staggering amount of territory. Trade along the Silk Road flowed freely again under Genghis Khan's protection. He introduced the Yasa, a written code of laws that brought order and justice. Religious tolerance was enforced so Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and others could worship freely. He built not just an empire of conquest, but a new world order that connected East and West like never before. In his final years, Genghis Khan turned once more against Western Shah when they broke their promises. While on campaign, he fell seriously ill and died in 1227. Following his wishes, his body was carried secretly to a remote mountain and buried without any marker, so no one would ever disturb his rest. His vast empire passed to his sons and grandsons, who would expand it even further. The largest empire ever created. And today, his DNA lives on in roughly 0.5% of all men on Earth.